The late Ed Kachela, who was our boss, did send him to BBC.
So he trained you?
So him, Dennis was the only one who was trained and sent to BBC in London. The rest of the people, they were just copycatting from him.
He trained you? As a result, when Dennis came back home, who was training the commentators?
He trained me in the sense that he was not teaching me word by word how to, no, because even I was already a footballer. So from understanding football, from the technicality of football, he found that I knew the game very well. I knew the rules. I would not go in the dressing room to go and get the names of the players. No. I would see the players as they are walking. I would tell Dennis if he hasn't gone. Because one day at Independence Stadium, he wanted to test me whether I knew the names of these footballers. All right? He didn't go to the dressing room. I didn't go to the dressing room. So we just saw them coming. So as they were coming, he started asking me, Masha, tell me, who are the Zambian players? I told him, that is so-and-so, that is so-and-so, that is so-and-so, that is so-and-so, up to the last player, and we just looked at the numbers. But because the Zambia national team players had their numbers inscribed at the back of their shirts every time they were playing, Godfrey started wearing shirt number 10 in today's game. In the next week's game, he will not play shirt number 7. He will not wear shirt number 7. It will be shirt number 10. So I knew them by their faces. And that's what surprised Dennis Luwewe and convinced him that this young man knows the game of football.
What was his belief? Did you ever have a conversation about styles? Would he be a person who would be uneasy about people sounding like him? Would he take offense, or you would be happy that people like his style?
Well, he was a gentleman of all seasons. By so saying, I'm saying he was a very good man. Remember his background, he was a teacher. Remember his background was brought up in the Anglican church, and he used to be a youth leader right from his younger age. So he learned through the ropes, of the church leadership code. He was a father, to his brilliant children. Linda is one of them, Ponga is one of them, and ended up in the Football Association, secretariat, and ultimately he made other choices and he left. So he was a husband, he was a father, he was a church leader, he was a teacher, he was a public relations director. So he knew how to handle, human beings from different aspects. He was, a football commentator also. In other words, he was a sportsman, although I never saw him kick the ball in any day of our many years that we mingled together. So, from the point of view of whether he would feel achieved if he was told so is copying or copycatting you, and then he would react, no, he wouldn't do that, because he was always in the spirit of wanting to teach other people or encourage other people to do certain things. Not necessarily that they must copy him, like many commentators, those that we have today that you can talk about. Or even if somebody had to come from Kanyama compound, from Central London, Monza Town, compound, they would want to imitate Dennis Luwewe because he was on the stage for many years. So for many young commentators that we have today, they would feel if you don't do the commentary that Dennis Luwewe were, then nobody would accept you. But my encouragement to them is that I want to hear another commentator with a different inclination from the late Dennis Luwewe.
Tell me something. Telesport was your brainchild.
Yes.
How did you hatch it?
Well, I have always been a lover of football as a ball, enjoying itself, even if it has got no brains, that the person who is playing me, muchinyanja wagamba kuti animvela kunzuna as a ball, mbonga bola. Animvela kunzuna as a ball. So, in other words, I do not want to see a player who just kicks the ball anyhow. Because even with due respect, a blind man using the sense of hearing, he will understand the speed at which the ball is coming to him, or by passing him, he can stop it. But I loved a player who plays it. So if I asked you a question, what is the it? You probably wanted to ask your friend, to say, look, Mana, your dad told me this. What does that mean? Now, playing it means somebody who is a born footballer. You don't teach him anything. You simply teach him, among the main things, your philosophy. How do you want him to play in your system? But you don't teach him like a player. In the olden days, we had players during our generation. We had players that never went to school to learn football in the academies. You know, the likes, like I said, the Zamba Tsailotas, the Fanny Hangunyus, the Jack Chandas, the Boniface Killer Chandas, the Derek Mansas, the Dap Makinkas, the Eston Mulengas, the Kelvin Mutales, and all these great sons of this football, nation. They never went to play football via academies. They were born like that. You simply throw a chimponga ball. You see their styles. You see their skills. But today, you've got to take somebody to school. How to control the ball, how to stop the ball, how to dribble, how to hit the ball, how to chest control. It's amazing that even at national team level, one time, Mr. Lakim Siska said, hey, it's amazing in Zambia that even a national team player, you've got to teach him how to ball control. So, these are some of the things that are different from our time. Because our time, during those many years, you can ask anybody on the Copper Belt, Mr. Mark Masumbuko, he's a commercial farmer now in Kitwe. Nobody taught him how to play football. He learned that from his own career. Mind you, Zite, the Bible, somewhere in the New Testament, says, discover your talent and use it to the best of your ability.
So what was the gap in 1996 when you began to roll out Telesport?
Well, because of that passion of wanting to play good football, so that when people leave their homes to go and watch football at some football match, maybe he has had a quarrel with somebody at home, and they needed to take off that at the football match by watching good football. So one principle was that skill was the determining factor. Irrespective of maturity, experience, no, skill. So that's when I went, for that team, where there was Kakonje Kalirilo, there was, Chakangwata, Kambole Sikazwe, Trust Mulilo, Griffins Luwaile, 7, was Mwenda Chilemena together with Timothy Nyerongo and Mazuba Mkandawire. You had in the middle here, Nephias Banda. At shirt number 10, you had, Lawrence Lubinda. Shirt number 11, George Siamaningi. Or you had this boy, the late Dennis Mulengo. Excellent human being.
What happened to the skill of Zambian football? At the time, why Telesport? What?
Because you see,
what died?
When Mr. Dean Mwinde, Martin Pira and Giaz Mwanza, myself and Alfred Rupia, Kostage Munyama came together, we said, look, we want a team of footballers that individually, each one of them must be excessively individually gifted and skilled. So that when people go to watch football, they'll get a satisfaction. And the boys at Telesport, these boys that I've mentioned too, the Peter Chilemenas were coming when they were still at University of Zambia, even before at University of Zambia, but in their early ages of, after grade 12. You remember Peter, was even invited and called by Hevrena in the 2009 Zambia national soccer team that was traveling to Cote d'Ivoire. But then, because he was writing exams at University of Zambia, we said no. My wife would be very upset with me. She would even say, look, Peter, we didn't send you to University of Zambia to go and play football, but to be a very educated person and become a boss of your own in the futures, to come. So we wanted a team of these young footballers. Remember, they were coming from secondary schools. in Lusaka province, and they had very fresh minds, and they needed, to show. They wanted to exhibit what they knew about their inner football. So the person inside there, all the 16 Telesport players, including Kennedy Mwene, they wanted to play and they wanted to show. So my coaches said, we want a husband who will have quarreled with his wife, go to Woodlands Stadium, watch these boys play. He comes home running in the kitchen there. He gives his wife a very extraordinary kiss that she has never seen. And then she'll be shocked. She said, why? The man should be able to say, darling, the football I watched by these boys, Telesport, even if you're riding his bicycle and you are standing on top of that saddle, you are going to be forced to stop.
What was going to be the fundamental difference with what you were doing, apart from the boys being under 17, but what was the niche about Telesport Football Club?
The niche about Telesport football players was that they were a different breed of footballers.
What was the selection process like?
Well, the selection process by the coaches led by Dean Mwinde, these Alfred Rupias and everybody. Alfred Rupia who's at Zesco now. We had to get him from Kalusha Modern Stars to come and join us. A few days in Sonda and all these coaches. They were looking for a player with an extraordinary skill that he would do something that other players in Telesport cannot do. So each one of them was excessively, gifted and skilled. So every time they were playing, it is not the footballers who are running, it's the ball that was running. It's the ball that did movements. It's the ball that, because with the Telesport, you would not ask as to when are they going to score. It was when the system demanded that, gentlemen, it's now to score. You played too much good football. Balls, goals were rolling like a cricket scoreline. You can ask anybody, the Godfrey Ludakas and, the Patrick Nyangulus and, the late Isaac Mulinda and many other people that came to watch Telesport, that when they saw goals started coming, they will start telling their next door neighbor, now you will see a cricket scoreline.
But one would argue that was 3 years after the Gabon air disaster. 94 we get to the final, 96 we come out third. So there wasn't really a crisis if you come to think of it. You make it sound as if there was a big skill crisis, but Zambia was still hitting those high notes.
Well, each fisherman knows what type of a fishing net he's going to use and what type of waters will determine. In my area in Hamangaba, which is part of Wengwa, we have a saying that when it is time for the women to fish, the owner of that river, the owner of that portion of the water where he wants the fish to be, to be mopped out so that only the smaller ones are left, is the one who knows how far deeper the waters are. And he is the one who knows when to invite the women to come and fish. So in the picture or in the mind of Telesport coaches, they are the ones that wanted the type of players that they wanted, who were not the same as the players you get in any other club, be it Super League, be it Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. No. The Telesport players were exemplary. And that's the more reason when we stopped Telesport, we went for another program, all of them went to join Division 1 and Super League teams. Some of them went abroad.
You're just getting to be part of the party, weren't you? There was no crisis.
No, the crisis, not only at Telesport, but perhaps at the national team levels, was that players were not chosen according to merit.
By who?
By those who were choosing players for the national team.
Because you see, the background is Bloemfontein will come out third. Okay, 1998 we had Bukadziz, and then we had Ben Bamfuchile in 2000. What was the problem?
When you compared with the 1974 squad, well, let's start from 1972. From 1972 squad. And then you came all the way, all these generations. You do not have players. Remember, players, they are also like the products that come onto the market. Okay? The products that come onto the market from the various manufacturers. Even footballers, there's an era where you have goalkeepers, you have defenders, you have midfielders, you had wing play, you have, two twin strikers. Today's football is it. And I want somebody to convince me why you would call a number 7 to come and play in the middle. You would call a number 11, you come in the middle and you call him, a midfielder. No, sir. Those are wingers.
No, I'm talking about what you're calling as a travesty of justice, that players were not being picked on merit.
Yes.
As a commentator and having followed the game, which are some of the names would you say that those were never supposed to put on the Zambia jersey?
Well, the list is endless, my son. It's completely endless.
Name and shame.
Only those that were stars, even in today's football. If by miracle, and I don't have the power, if I had the power, raise for the older generation the Godfrey Chitalo lineup, no team would beat them even today. You raise the Kelvin Mutale, Eston Mulenga, Dap Makinka team, this national team of today cannot beat the Wisdom Chancers. No. No, because the players were completely different.
But what makes it a statement of fact and not a feeling of, being shortchanged? Probably the same way you felt as a younger man in your career, that you were playing in Choma and in Livingstone and your talents didn't come to the top, like Cream would.
Yes.
That sounds like the same young man.
No, the direct answer is, the selectors of the national team are concentrated only in certain areas. They have not gone...
At 96, paint the picture. What were they concentrating on? And you said, enough, I'm going to form a team and I need this team to produce this type of player.
Even at the junior levels of the national teams or the secondary schools, to select a team that will go and represent Zambia at some regional tournament. We did not have the skillful players of the Kelvin Malaza's attitude. My job is to score. The Jack Chandas, the Fanny Angunyus, the Ashos Melus of yesterday.
So what was failing? Was it the national team coaches, fires? Where was
the problem? The problem lay in the person who was selecting.
The coach of the national team.
The local Zambian coaches would do their teaching. They would find the players from all over the provinces. But the Mzungu selector may not pick the players that would have added the depth, to that particular
team.
Who
angered you? Person, Bugadzis? When you say the Mzungu didn't pick the correct players, who are you referring to?
I'm referring to all the 21, 22 white Wazungus who never took Zambia to the finals of the Africa Cup and win a tournament, who'd only come to Zambia to eat the cake on top. One of the Zumunjovis, the Dickson Makwazas, the Boniface Mtowes and the Dick Chamas, the Lieutenant Kembo Bright Obanda, we are cooking the meal. So the Football Association of Zambia,
there's an argument that you cannot make a good omelette with bad eggs. What if our players were hook, line, sinker, inadequate?
And therefore, the person who's going to make that omelette must ensure that first and foremost they get the good eggs. In England today, those fantastic analysts, they say, the quality of football, the whole world, is anchored by the quality of the players that you see on the pitch. My young man, look at the brilliant football at Man City. Look at the brilliant football at Norwich. Look at brilliant football at Liverpool, at Tottenham Hotspurs, at at Man U, because they've got good quality footballers. That's why they play that kind of football.
Needless to
talk about the results. Okay? Needless to talk about the results. I'm talking about the quality of the players. They make a quality game.
Let's talk about responsibilities. Players don't choose themselves to the national team.
No.
Never chosen themselves.
No.
Coaches are the ones that choose players,
okay.
And coaches are chosen by the administrators.
Agreeable?
So that is the paper trail.
Okay.
So now, in the two places, so since it's the coaches and the administrators who are invariably choosing the players, or vicariously so, tell me clearly, where was the problem?
The problem...
Because who brought the 22 Bazungu you are referring to?
Yes, but it was a Mzungu that we merely encouraged to grow, the confidence that he can do it. We helped every now. My committee, 2008, 2012.
No.
Okay, now.
No, not every now. I'm talking about, at about 1996, when you had formed Telesport, you were saying that you wanted to develop a cadre of players that were skillful and could do things. And you've said that you were doing it from a point of view that there was unfairness in the selection process and the right calls were not being made. So at that point, what broke the camel's back for you to say, I'm going to form a club and we are going to form a club that is going to produce the type of players that we want?
My intention at that time was that this country needed the replica performances of the Jan Simulambos and the Godfrey Chitalos and Beda Chandas when you're not asking, is Zambia going to win? But how many goals? So ultimately, the goal was that these young people must graduate from Telesport, go to other clubs where they will not be taught football, but they will be accepted to perform and contribute to the growth of football in our country, not only at the club where they're going, but ultimately in the various national teams where they joined. These boys from Telesport, they played all the levels of the national teams in Zambia.
Sentiment aside, that team that perished on the coast of Gabon, from what you've said, the way you've responded to my question is that you quickly go back to the days of Gianni Simlambo. You don't think that that team that perished had talents better than the Gianni Simulambos?
No.
Computer.
No, sir. With due respect to all those boys who perished in the waters of Gabon, fantastic players, but they were far-fetched from the Gianni Simulambos, far-fetched from the Alex Cholas.
But let me ask you a responsibility question. You're also a parent. Let me hear you deal with this. How come the children of the Gianni Simlambos and all these great players become lesser than their own? Explain that to me.
Well, it is...
And who takes responsibility for that?
It is difficult, Zite, to explain why the children of this great...
Can I give you a sample answer? Can I give you a sample answer?
Just a minute. It is not as though because you, the father, you are a teacher, therefore your son or your daughter will also be a teacher. It doesn't work like that.
A good one, at least.
So talents and abilities and capacities, Zite, are different. Do you understand? There was a great man, Godfrey Yuka Chitaro, a friend of mine. In the days of my commentary, in the days of over my commentary, when he became a coach for Cape Warriors and the national team of Zambia, we were great colleagues. He had a son who was playing football, but not as good as the father. And ultimately, he shrunk.
No, I'm saying in terms of handover
No.
So, Godfrey Chitalu coached the likes of Malaza, and you are saying, you're putting it to me that Godfrey Yuka Chitalu was in another world. Granted, respected, but he's the one who was coaching the likes of Malaza. And I'm calling them his children.
Right.
So how come he couldn't impart his DNA on his kids?
And that's why I said, it is each human being, Zite, is given his or her own pedigree or depth of knowledge, capacity and ability to do something. They may not get the DNA enzyme, so to say, of the father or the mother to do the greatness of what their parents did.
You failed to teach.
For example...
Okay, how is this?
No, listen.
What if
listen.
I put it to you that
listen.
Your generation
the late Zambian assistant coach, Mr. Boniface Sumtowe, a great physician of football, the man that I know, used 3 nicknames in one soccer season: Chest Master, Fu Manchu, Boniface Chitapo Chimo. Okay? He had his own children, but they were not as good as he was. His immediate answer to that question when I asked him, Waboni, because that's how we normally called him, Waboni. How come, Mdala, all these years you've been a coach, of football, whether it is a national team, whether it is a club level, you have not produced a replica. You have not produced, a rapture, so to say, for lack of better terminology, of another Boniface Mtoyo. He answered me and said, Mwaichewandi, some of these footballers are untrainable.
Okay.
So meaning that even with his own children, he took he took a tap, he took a length, to teach his children.
Could I suggest something to
Yes,
you?
sir. Yes, sir.
What if I put it to you and say that your generation are notoriously bad teachers? Because I will take you to the good book. You're still an elder, right? And you know what I'm about to say. The Bible says that train your kids in a way that when they grow up, they will not depart.
Yes.
So the Bible itself tells us that it's possible. And your generation are criticizing what they should have controlled or prevented.
Well,
why?
Perhaps not control, but teaching and reminder. Yes, we have done that. We have taught a lot of people. We have reminded a lot of people that this game of football requires you to surrender your mind, to surrender your heart to it, and be able to be controlled within the confines of the rules that govern this game. If you want to do that, then don't associate with alcohol. Don't associate with the cigarettes and many other negative vices that will reduce your performance pad. We have tried our level best. Now in Tonga, we have a proverb which say, ng'ombe nga mwaitola kwe kumulonga kuya kunywa manzi kutikaitayandi, it will not drink the water. So what that means is that you can take a cow, or you can take a bull, or an ox, or a calf, or a steer, or a heifer to go and drink water. If it doesn't want to drink, unless you use other methods, take it out of the water, get a bucket, and then you open its mouth, but you're bound to kill it because it's going to choke. So even these footballers of our generation as the leaders, coaches and administrators, we've tried to teach them, we've tried to open their minds and how good football is, because it's $1 million question. But these boys cannot even learn from what their friends, Man City, Man U, TP Mazembe and Simba Stars, Orlando Pirates, Sundowns, are doing on television, so that they appreciate that football is a money spinner game.
But you're not taking as much responsibility for it.
Excuse me, sir.
You have overseen the same process that you're criticizing.
No, but excuse me, sir. But I've told you, sir, you can't force a donkey to drink water. It doesn't. This same donkey, I'm responsible for its accommodation, for giving it food, for taking it anywhere, for grazing and whatever. And then all of a sudden, it doesn't choose to do what has been bestowed on it.
How did your parents' generation succeed in raising the Yukas, the Simulambos, and all that?
We were a different breed of children who listened to our parents. That's why today...
And then you raised kids that couldn't listen to you.
well, it's amazing. Remember, we are in a world where even the devil, claims this is his world. So he will choose that certain sons and daughters just behave differently from the character of the family.
So you're calling it the work of the devil.
No, surely you can.
So in summary, we call it the work of the devil.
Well, if anybody does not want to follow any program which is lawful, remember that I'm a son of the Chilemenas. Now, if my parents tell me, don't steal, because stealing is bad, and then they find me stealing one day, they'll pick a shambok and perhaps use the shambok to try and straighten me up.
Let me ask you this. They say winners never quit.
Yes.
Why did you quit or close shop at Telesport?
No, I did not quit. I discovered that I needed to do and venture into another program because we had trained these boys at Telesport. If you ask Mr. Dean Mwinde today, who is the technical director at Young Green Eagles, or Alfred Rupia, who is assistant coach at Azesco, or you ask Martin Piri or Mr. Geyaz Mwanza, they gave enough rope to these kids to learn everything that they wanted. And then they said, now you can venture into the wilderness of football because you are now mature.
It was a short-term program even at 1996?
We had indicated that we would go for 96, we'll go for 97, we'll go for 98, 99, 2000, which was a 5-year program. That's what we had intended, to do. But when we got to 2005 and we saw that many of our kids were snatched, by various big clubs and we could not, have the same cream that we started with, then we decided, to go to other means. And that was, we started a program of educating individual football players that would get from Namshakede, bring him into Lusaka, train him, he becomes good. 21 days, he graduates, we get him a club, he signs a contract off our hands. We found that to be a lesser program that would not create so much headache to us.
So you felt that some people stole your players?
No, they didn't steal.
When you use the word snatched?
No, snatched in the sense that
you got value for money in other words.
Yeah, you see somebody and you say, hey, that youngster seems to be good. Either you speak to the club or you just see that the player stops coming for 2 weeks. 3 weeks later or 4 weeks later, you see him in a game. He's being featured by another team. Then you approach these people. Why did you do that? That's a thieving. However, will not stop you using our player. But in many instances at Telesport, we did not sell players. We found them employment at these various clubs where they went to join.
So
we were very happy.
Was FAS guilty of failing to protect a small institution that was doing noble work for the community and the country at large?
No, we did not get the support that was needed. Not necessarily injecting finances into a single club. No, but there are several other means. There are several other factors that FAS could have done to help such a young program, which was taking these boys off a negative path, bringing them to doing something that was positive.
So what are you saying about Evaristo Kasunga, Teddy Mlonga, and all the first presidents that ran during the time of
these were great men. They were great men, but they had no responsibility. It was not their obligation to sponsor individual, clubs in the country.
Would it have been? No, I'm saying in the case of Telesport.
Well, in the case of Telesport, what would have expected from the Football Association, the administrators at FAS at the time we were running from 1996 to 2005, was that we were concentrating on schoolboys that we were teaching not only football but even several other life-saving attitudes, and we expected that they could have brought in a hand from the Football Association to try and see if they could help these young stars, either supporting them in school somehow, maybe, getting them into a national team, of their age groupings, so that they could earn a little allowance and come back home. You see the football that we are learning at Telesport. This is, mother, what I'm bringing for you. My father, this is what we're getting, to, as from the Football Federation, arrangements. So that's what we expected. But that never came. We didn't blame them because it was not their job, to do that.
What took you to FARS in 2008?
Well, I would like to thank the people of Zambia, clubs and administrators and stakeholders that gave me the support, to get in there, because they saw somebody with a natural passion.
Did they give you the support, or it was your camp? Yourself?
No.
Kalusha Walia?
No.
Emmanuel Mnaile?
No. People appreciated what I did as an individual.
So you didn't align yourself to that camp?
No. First of all, the product was Masha Chilemena. Who was Masha? Masha was a commentator. Who was Masha? Masha was a football owner. Who was Masha? Masha was a television, football, football commentator, producer. Who was Masha? Masha was somebody who go in rural Zambia to go and identify talent from as far places as Kashiki, is it? Go to, Mwilunga, go to Ilundazi, right deep in the villages. So they knew what Masha was doing, because this was a person who had so much passion for football, and it took him to strengths and lengths.
So you were not in the winning team?
Even if I was joined by other people, because we had to discuss.
Hold on.
Wait a minute. I had to be joined by other people who thought that, riding
the bike. Did the camp join you, or you joined the camp?
No, every one of us joined each other.
Oh, so you joined
there was nothing like, let me go to that team because I'll win. No, as Masha Chilemena, I was comfortably football knowledge day, if there's such a terminology in grammar. So much that I could have won that position on my own, because I was coming from the industry. I was a fishmonger. You can't stop a fishmonger to eat the type of fish that he wants to eat. So fortunately, other people as well had their own strengths, which linked up with my strength. And that's how we drove the ship very well.
Let me ask you this. So did Kalusha ever approach you and say, look, I'm standing for the presidency. Can we work together and get elected and save Zambian football?
That's what he did. Yes, he did. I was his campaign manager. I campaigned for him.
Why?
2008, all the way, 2008 and 2012.
But
now, I went to the clubs. You remember clubs were meeting?
Yes.
In all the provinces. Clubs were meeting. And I listened to what people were saying. All right? Mm-hmm. Everybody was saying this and that and this and that and that. Then I said, wow. We have the former vice president, who wants now to contest as a president. My message to them was that here is a human being. Here is an individual that is known worldwide in terms of football. And therefore, my conviction is that maybe under inverted commas, if we partner our football with this individual, we can get entry into the international football arena with this young man. Because you go to South Africa, he's known. You go to England, he's known. You go to Mexico, he's known. You go to Belgium, he's known. To Holland, he's known. In Brazil, he's known. So it will be easier to attract the attention of the other people that must listen to our story of football development in Zambia. And going round the 9 provinces then, I was able to deliver that message, and people gave me a hearing, and people listened to what I was saying as his campaign manager.
Why did you want Teddy Mlonga gone?
Well, I was very comfortable with the person that I was very familiar with, whose football I did commentaries for, when I was the chairman, Mufulira Wanderers, the supporters club based on the Copper Belt in Dola. This young man was, grew up in my eyes, and He had a local football team in Zambia here, Eagle Stars, and he was involved in all the other coaching programs for the young people in the townships. He was coming, organizing KNV, courses for all this. So I was very familiar with this young man, and with his football playing, career in the various big nations. And I convinced myself that this would be the right messenger to go and send, because the moment he gets there, people say, "Oh yeah, here comes the so." It's like you are asking, if it were in the world of politics, you're asking me, who is a son of Mr. Musonda in some area of this country, and some politician asks me to accompany him and go to such an area, and it will be an advantage to that person, because every village in that area, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I used to know and so. He has come with Mr. Sonson's child." So it was easier for me to sell this individual, because he had been everywhere. He had done a number of things. He had made certain connections, which ordinarily would not help Zambian clubs. There's one club, for reasons which are secretive. I will not mention the club. In one foreign country, in Europe, they went for preparations and wanting to develop their team. And when they got there, they needed some help, but they couldn't get the help from where they were. So they were asked, "Where are you from?" "No, we are from such a country." And sure. Okay, is that so? Because we know the person you're talking about. If you can give us his number, then we can talk to him and see if he can remember you. And they gave those people Kalusha's number, and they talked to him. "Oh, hello, Kalu. Yeah, well, this and that, we've got visitors, they are coming from your country." So, yeah, okay, very good. So please give them all the support that they need. And that club in Zambia got all that support that they needed. So that's the advantage of using somebody at
So you were just not a fan who was mesmerized by what
I wasn't.
Kalusha did as a player?
No, I played a role with Dennis Lawyer to groom that boy, Kalusha, who is now a man. I played a huge role in exposing him in the radio commentaries, in the television commentaries, talking about him, even where people criticize him, like anybody can criticize anybody. But we stood for him, we helped, we contributed. He was my player when I was supporting Mufulira Wanderers before 1996, when I started the Telesport. So he was coming from my legendary team.
You were in that committee that had a turbulent time. There was a time when a parallel league was formed. There were resignations. Before that, I want to ask about the resignations. Emmanuel Mnaile, Violet Walia, Hensho Chitembe, and Pivot Mwanza resigned.
Right.
You're one of them that didn't. Why?
Because I believed in the rule of law. We had a constitution that gave us a mandate to manage and regulate football. So it would have been very, very unfair on my part to move out of this executive that had labored so much without government support, both from the previous regime and the PF regime. When we came in, there was nothing. There was no money which was given to us. We had to raise our own money to take the team, to Gabon. Even when the team was already there, that's when the new government, came in with its own money to come and support the efforts that we're doing.
Where did you get the money?
No many. We had, cooperating partners who were so many to mention. Among them, there was Zambian breweries, Holiday Inn Hotel. We had, Trade Kings. We had, Nike. We had, MTN. We had, what you call this one. What's the name? There were so many that we had to discover. The majority of them were coming from South Africa.
So,
Nike and many others you can mention.
Explain something to me. How were you, when you heard that your colleagues had resigned, what was your reaction at personal level?
There was no reaction that came from me, because none of them had told me what they were intending to do. None of them spoke to me.
Did you become closer with Kalusha after the resignation of the four, and then you had challenges co-opting people, and then it was FIFA back and forth?
Listen, we had no problem in running football. Those of us that remained, because the constitution of Zambian football indicates even 3 people in the executive can run matters of football as long as amongst the 3 there is either the vice president or the president. So in that committee, there was Kalusha, the president. I was there, committee member. Kigan Chipambo was there, committee member. Lenin Kua was there as committee member. So we had no problem by the provisions of the first constitution then. And then what our friends did not do was to come into the executive meeting and say this and that and this and that and this. Because the executive has got the powers to suspend a president or a vice president or any committee member who is not doing what is enshrined in the Constitution.
How did the 4 that the 3 that resigned?
So that's what I'm saying. If those 3, they had a strong case, they should have brought a strong case to the executive committee in one of the meetings. So resigning did not solve their problems. Because even after they resigned, we continued running football up to the time we won the Africa Cup.
How difficult was it? You said without government support. Without government support. Let's underline that part.
Well, the government support, had its own difficulties and challenges and its own factors from the MMD. Okay, so we did not agree with certain things. They wanted, to run football from a government point of view when the FIFA, the FIFA ruling or the FIFA position is that we were legitimately elected by the councillors. And they gave us
what did the government want you to do?
They gave us a mandate to run football for the whole full tenure of office. And that's what we decided we were going to do. Those that left, it was their constitutional democratic right. And they thought that we were going to crumble. No, sir. The constitution...
So they never came one day to actually say, listen, there's a problem in the way we're running an operation.
No, they know. They were just talking to the media. No, there are problems, what and what.
Did you respect them at the time? Did you think they were genuine people?
Even today, they are my friends. Even today, they are my friends.
But why did your friends behave like that?
I do not understand. I do not understand. None of them, including then Vice President Munaire, told me why he wanted to leave. In any case, he was not obliged to telling me. No, it was his decision. So what I'm trying to explain.
Did you engage him?
They might, no. I did not have time to engage any one of them. It was their constitutional...
You had no time, or you didn't want to?
No, I didn't have the time. I would not find the time to ask anybody who has made their own constitutional right, to do something.
So tell me something.
So
after that...
Like I told you, when we had the difficulties with the MMD supporting us because maybe they wanted their own coaches to be employed to run football, come and tell us what they've been told because they're the ones who are paying the money. We told the coaches, sorry, we are running the show.
So which coaches did they want?
It was this one, the one who qualified us, to Gabon.
Dario.
The Italian.
So
he was...
It was the government who appointed Dario, wanted Dario in?
No, but you remember he was employed through the ministry.
You had nothing to do as a committee?
Well, I didn't see the application from him and his people. I didn't see it. So maybe my colleagues, some of them in the executive...
But he was an imposed figure?
Well, he was somebody who was brought it to us and said, this is a new coach for Zambia. So...
And what was your reaction?
My reaction was that he must work with us like any other employee at the Football Association.
Then Dario Bonetti and Faz fought some running battles, some not so nice things to say about each other. What was the problem with the Italian coach?
Well, I think that his his coming into Zambia, even if he might have been identified by probably one of us, maybe spoken to by one of us, but you remember that the Zambian National Parliament has an act in there, in Parliament, that instructs or that that allows the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Child Development to employ a coach. Okay? So the coach, by the Act of Parliament, by Act of National Assembly, is employed by the Zambian government in a nutshell. We, as FAS, will just be a process by which this person can be employed. Because the monies are paid by the Ministry of Sports.
Did you
Although FIFA does not really allow governments of the 54 federations in Africa
to get
involved in and day out. But as a government, as a country, you have your own rules that govern sports development in your country, and FIFA cannot stop you, to do that.
So at the beginning, it seems that your executive didn't have a problem with Dario Bonetti being coach, but towards the end, there was this exchange of words. There was a situation with Lucky Musiska, and Dario Bonetti called FAS liars, which you were part of, the group of liars that he was referring to.
Apparently, that's a more reason why we fired him for calling us liars. He had no respect for the employers. We made the recommendation to the ministry. Sorry, we cannot continue with his character. He spent, you remember, many soccer fans were complaining. He spent much of his contract, just trotting around the world, looking and going to check on the Zambian footballers who were already, original members of the Chipolo Polo. So we found that to be completely absurd. There's no way somebody, can.
So he had to go.
Well, he had to go. Even if he qualified us, to Gabon, he had to go because he had no respect.
Or maybe, with hindsight, don't you think you people in that committee were just servicing your egos and just wanted to show Dario Bonetti that you had masters?
No.
He was an okay coach.
No, we told him, Dario, we are the executive committee of the Football Association of Zambia, under the arm of the state president as the patron of the Football Association of Zambia. This is an act of parliament that allows football development in our country. And therefore, we run football. If there are certain things that you don't understand, if there are certain things, there are certain issues that you like to bring on board, let's sit. First of all, speak to your technical committee chairman or your technical committee, and then they'll bring recommendations. If it will be necessary for us to meet you as our employee, then we'll talk. And we believed in the rule of law. You can't be talking, to a president of the association, you're a coach, and you're probably sitting on his desk, or you are sitting, somewhere, and you're not even giving him attention, or even the executive committee members. And it's like people are employed by you, or you want to do the things that you want to do. No, sir, you can't do that. We never did that in Telesport. We respected the coach, the head coach, Mr. Dean Mwende. When it came to matters of coaching, he took that with his fellow coaches. If it was a matter of managing the team, Mr. Cosmas Munyama, who was the team manager, took that. We had a doctor. We were the only Division 2 team with a qualified doctor in Kawata there.
Okay. Now, tell me something.
So in other words, in management, Zite, you work for QTV, or maybe you are a shareholder or whatever position that you've got in there. You need to abide by the rules of that institution. You will not bring your father's rules to QTV. No, then you're going to operate parallel. So when the issues of Bonetti and came through, yes, some of them they were not fair to, because the people were rushing to media. I never rushed. I'm one of those committee members that never ran to the media to say anything about what was going on.
What did you think about Andrew Ndanga Kamanga, Kefas Katongo, Rix Mwemba, and all those who were elected in what was dubbed as the interim committee?
Right. I told them, even today, I remind them, what you did was not correct. because you went around the country collecting, club signatures. And yet you know too well, in the constitution of football, there's a provision that those clubs that want an emergency committee meeting, they must indicate using their own letterheads of the respective clubs. And FA's Secretary General or General Secretary George Kasangiri would not stop any team that would want to write that we have certain issues that we feel we must discuss. So we are writing. That's what the Constitution says. But these colleagues, they wanted to choose a shortcut. They wanted to choose a shortcut and just go around the country collecting the signatures when the Constitution does not say so.
What drove their ambition?
From their part?
Yes.
Well, they wanted to be in FAS.
What was in FAS?
Well, they wanted to run football.
Milk and honey.
No. Some of us, up to today, we were just part-timers. We were not employed by FAS. We are up to today. We are doing certain things that we know best through our careers and professions. That's why even today, we are existing. You understand? So, some people used the football, they wanted to use the football house for their personal successes and development.
Is it true that your reign was shrouded by lack of integrity, corruption? You're not straightforward fellas.
Up to today, I have never been called in my 62 years, age, and I'm going to 63. I've never been called by the police for any wrongdoing. No. Because we were brought up like that. If in my executive, and I cannot say it was 100% that some people did not do wrong things like any other human being. We live in a Christian nation where the Bible says, for all have sinned. All have sinned. Not even a single Zambian from the first generation to date has been found to be righteous.
Your president was banned by FIFA. Okay, later on acquitted. But he was banned for getting money.
You know what?
Using an improper method.
Before we get to the president, former president, even the colleagues who formed their own parallel league, where did they go? Where did they go? They ended up just coming back to the league. There were issues of them wanting to report us to FIFA. Our president, general secretary, and their committee member, they went to FIFA. But they were told, you were not legitimately elected by the clubs of Zambia. You forced your decision on some clubs who did not understand the Constitution. That's how they ended up coming and voting for you at a parallel. But we ended up running Football City up to the end of our tenure of office. If we were very bad people, we could have used the Constitution and ban everybody. If we wanted to do that, we could have gone that route.
Why didn't you do that?
No, we are very thinking, reasonable human beings who did not want to give, a spade for a spade, or an evil, deed to an evil deed. No, we wanted to follow the football constitution, go up to the end of our.
But the football constitutions allowed you to ban them.
No, we didn't ban them, because if we wanted really to use the constitution, we could have banned everybody for life, so that they are no longer in football, unless maybe there's a different change of attitude by FIFA.
Is it a position that you regret?
No.
Why?
Because
the same group ended up unseating you, unseating the president.
Because in an election, it's not always the bad people. That it's not always the good people that continue going. It was the era of change. All right, it was the era of change. All the good things that you're seeing today in Zambian football, it was started by first executive, 1964. But eras kept on changing. So it was the era that some of us, could not continue. Some of us continued in the same executive. Let me until the election day.
Let me pull you a little bit back in history. Earlier on in your reign in the executive committee of the Football Association of Zambia,
okay.
Everena came. it wasn't the greatest of starts.
Yes.
And there was a lot of rumor abound that the executive committee was once upon divided about whether Heverena should continue as coach or not.
In any administrative setup,
Is that true? For starters,
we share different views.
was Heverena going to be fired earlier on in his tenure?
Well, other people were of the intention that from the time that he came, the team had not won anything significant, and therefore maybe a look at somebody else would have been an option. Okay, but when we sat, those who wanted him not to continue were in the minority, and those who wanted to continue were in the majority.
Where were you?
So the majority rule. The majority.
Were you with the minority or the majority?
I needed to assess my position. I didn't give my position.
You're on the fence.
I did not abstain. I was in the meeting. I was in all the discussions. But
the minority lost without you even voting.
But I had thought like a leader. You give somebody enough room, enough rope, to hang around. So that when you've come to the end of that period, then you can say, look, we gave you so much time, but there was nothing that really you brought up.
You were confused at the point.
No, I wasn't confused.
I
wanted, first of all, to listen what the young people were going to say. And from while I was waiting, it was evident that those who wanted him to continue were in the majority. So I said, look, even if I voiced, it would not make any difference. Even if I said no, it would not make any difference. Even if I said yes, it would not make any difference, because there was already a roadmap that had already been agreed. But earlier on, you talked about the former president, Kalusha, and his issues with FIFA and so on and so on. Those are his personal issues, and
But you were in that executive committee. How do you call it personal?
I never, as a person in that executive, I never knew anything that he would have been doing behind the curtains of the executive committee.
So the $80,000 you never aware?
I only heard about it when they got him, to explain. That's when we were told. So meaning that our treasury was not sincere. Even our secretary should have known about this. But there was no general consensus. There was nothing like that. Because even he himself, if he had said that to me, if he had whispered that to me, that this is what I'm planning to do, because we never sent anybody anywhere to go and look for anything. No, we didn't do that. So even if he had mentioned it to me, I was going to advise him, no, Mr. President, you can't do that. There are a lot of other repercussions that will come. The impact of what you're going to do may not be a single swallowed impact, but it will go to other areas of interest as well. I wasn't going to support him. So to the best of my memory, no one had ever informed me of his issues with FIFA.
When the Africa Cup came to Zambia in 2012, and then you offered yourself for re-election and you're not successful, how did you feel?
There was a question that I asked, and the question I'm still asking today, and no one has given me an answer. How come I was the campaign manager? This man, with other people, we gave him 178 votes as a president. This man is the vice president. We gave him well over 130 votes. This man is a treasurer. We gave him 100 votes or so. How come me as a committee member and a campaign manager of these three, I could lose an election in a year that we've won the Africa Cup for the first time in the history of Zambian football? I'm still asking that question today. No one has come forth to tell me why and how did I lose.
Dribbled?
To date, definitely, that's what it means.
No suspects.
I do not, the Bible does not allow to think on behalf of the other people or for other people. No, I've left it just like that. So I believed with a very questionable mind that the electoral college should have been tampered with.
It was rigged.
It was, I'm talking about those who are going to vote are the ones that were tampered with. Either by those who wanted the three top leaders to remain, which is the most obvious. It could not have been anybody from outside. So that's how I comforted myself. Because I'm one person who is not a yes boy to anybody. I agree to agree and agree to disagree on principle. So I believe there are other people that also have the same policy. When they didn't agree to support me, therefore it ended there.
Did your relationship with the then president degenerate?
Well, I can say from our usual office in and office out relationship, there was a distance because I was no longer, part of his committee. So obviously, he probably saw it, no need, to start, continuing with this relationship, at football level, first of all, and secondly, at personal level, because I would do my own things, I'm doing my own things, he's doing his own things. So at that point, the office relationship was no longer intact, not only with him, with the rest of them that remained in the office, the vice president and the treasurer.
What next for Masha Chilemena? Once upon a time you offered yourself, you've had this little beating heart for politics. There was talk that you wanted to offer yourself in your home village in Bwengwa to actually be a member of parliament there. That ambition, dead or alive?
At the level I am now, I'm a senior church elder of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And it's an issue or it's a matter that one can make individual, personal decision if you want to go in there, to service people. There are many of the great leaders, the Martin Luther Kings and the Kwame Nkrumahs, the Julius Nyereles, the Madibas, the Thabo Mbekis, and in this country, several people were also involved. And when you go into the Bible, King David, King Saul, the Daniels, the Moses, they were leading people. And what is leading people? That is politicking amongst the people, because not everybody will like what you do, even when you're carrying an assignment from God. So if and when I've made a decision, should God continue giving me life? It's a question that has to deal with communication or to dialogue, with my best friend, who is my wife, and my children, my church mates, my fellow church elders, because we know that the Seventh-day Adventist Church had a president in one of the countries in East Africa who was an SDA, and he was the president of the country. He served for some time. Someone is still serving, and he's the president of that particular country, and he's an SDA, although because of the different functions of a national commitment, he sometimes does not find the time, to get to church because of the commitment. So when I will have decided, in consultations with my best friend, first of all, my wife, the two of us can make a decision. We don't have to consult anybody. So once that decision has been made, probably I might think, not only in Bwengwa, I'm a national leader where I am here. I can stand in Lusaka, I can stand in Muchinga, Copperbelt, Northwestern, anywhere. Because the Constitution of Zambia does not say, if you want to be a member of parliament, therefore, you must come from that particular constituency. No.
Tell me something. Is the Masha Chilemena story in terms of football over with where we are?
No. Because having been a footballer, and I went through all these, stages. Now we are at the stage of newspaper publishing. And one is a Sports Digest newspaper, weekly newspaper, which talks about many other issues about sports. And then there's this one that is called Bola Zambia, that talks about football. So it means I'm still inclined to football. But football in the office, where you are just writing stories, you are checking stories, you are inviting other people to give comments, to write stories, give you ideas and whatever. So it is at the table, football love, where we are now.
If today a call came to save Zambian football administratively, what would it be? Yes or no?
As long as it will not conflict with my religious beliefs.
Yes.
Then I would be available.
Thank you.
Because President Michael Sata, may his spirit live in peace, he told Dr. Kaunda, I've given Masha a new name. Masha Chakoloa Bola Muguwabwengwa Chilemena. Then I said, Wakateka, my committee has become the first committee to deliver to you the Africa Cup of Nations. Kalusha Bwali, the president, Boni Mwamiro, vice president, Lenin Kua in their committee member, Kigan Chipango, James Mpoma, Kelvin Mutafu, and one Masha Chilemena. Surely you can give me that name to remember what I've done, what we've done for you. Then Dr. Kaunda, in his usual humane, attitude, young Masha, you never refuse a presidential name. President Rupia Banda says, Iwe Maikolo, Izina wa Pastor Masha, Irune na change. Ni mwana wa nyoko. Then President Michael Sata answered and said, you see, Masha talks, he swims, he runs, thinks, he eats and dreams football. And if the doctors were to try and get blood, because he's been involved in a car accident or a road accident, God forbid, they will only see air bubbles written Bola, 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 Bola. And as we wind up this discussion, I want to say, on behalf of my best friend, who is my wife, Patricia Chilemena, and our 6 children, Maureen, Joe, Mwenda, Peter, Andrew, and Gina Chilemena, we thank you. Zite, I know you are very best friend of Lieutenant Chilemena. We are very grateful for this opportunity that you've given me, and thanking the Nyamas, the directors, and everybody at QTV. It is always a pleasure for me to watch every Saturday and Monday in the evening, to watch what I would have missed during the past week. Thank you so much. What else can we say? I can only say, may the good God give you another Africa Cup in my time when I still live. May Zambia qualify to the first ever World Cup, perhaps Qatar 22, because Zite, I have a lot of respect for the under-23 team, the former under-20 2017 World Cup. Thank you so much.